Have you ever gotten unsolicited advice from an ENFJ? First of all, as an ENFJ myself, I have to say that I apologize on behalf of ENFJs. And in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about why that might happen. And also at the end of the video, if you are an ENFJ, I'm going to give you some advice on how to avoid this problem. So if you are new to personality typology theory, ENFJs are extroverts, intuitives, feelers, and judgers. Their cognitive function stack has their dominant function being extroverted feeling. Extroverted feeling is a extroverted judging function, and it seeks mutual benefit with the group, and it uses ethical value judgments in order to make decisions. It is oriented toward the objective outer world. So this dominant function of the ENFJ pretty much is embedded in every single thing that they do. We are always focused on this sort of end result collectively. What are the win-wins? What are the mutually beneficial situations that could happen? What are the bonds that could be created? And also, this could be used to be like, how do we seek harmony in the situation? How do we improve the situation, make everyone happier, both parties happier, both groups, both individuals? It's all about that sort of compromise and collaboration. And ENFJs, their secondary function is introverted intuition, which is, as an introverted perceiving function, it takes a subjective view on what it perceives. This is how the ENFJ picks up the information that it is getting from the world. And intuition, it's based on abstract concepts, whereas all introverted functions are subjective in nature. So everything that the ENFJ is looking at is through their own subjective perspective. So if you know any ENFJs, or if you were to Google anything about ENFJs and ask people what just grinds your gears about ENFJs, you're gonna hear the fact that ENFJs tend to give like unsolicited advice. And it's kind of a reflex. If we see an avenue for a win-win, or if we see a bond that could be created that could just solve the entire conflict and just eliminate it entirely, it's like word vomit. We don't know how to keep our mouth shut. Part of that is because with extroverted feeling as our dominant function, the way that we feel things is entirely based on the collective society. We're always putting our feelings into perspective, and this is unlike how introverted feeling in introverted feelers like INFPs and ISFPs, which have that as their dominant function. Introverted feeling, it's all about your subjective emotional experience. What are your values? How do you operate emotionally? It is all about you as an enclosed system. The system of how extroverted feeling experiences emotion and makes value judgments is interconnected with all of society. So you might have heard that ENFJs and extroverted feeling, that they tend to go along with the values of the group, or they have societal values or collective values. Well, that can't be true. It's important to remember that it's not simply taking whatever value and not coming up with its own. It is looking at the cohesive combination of all of the values. Extroverted functions, it looks at the breadth of the situation. It's like, I could feel this, I could feel this, I could feel this, I could consider this value, I could consider this perspective. So ENFJs, they're always trying to consider all of these different feelings and the different ways that someone's actions could impact someone else's. So as opposed to just going with whatever our initial feeling response is, we're wanting to look at it kind of from a bird's eye view and think, well, what would happen if I did this? How would they react? How would they react? What are all the implications here? And is this what I really want? Is expressing this feeling going to get me the result of what it is that I really want? This is how ENFJs can tend to be kind of a martyr type, and we can forget our own self-care. And it's because our own initial emotion that comes up that is personal, we try our best to kind of shove that away, put it in the closet or set it down on a shelf. And you can consider it, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. We don't want to value our emotions any more than anyone else's emotions. When an ENFJ is sad, we think, okay, well, at least I'm not in this situation. And we tend to make it our job to like be approaching each situation with like the correct emotional response based on where we want to go. Because think about it, if you were like in a job and you wanted to succeed in that job and you wanted to get along with your coworkers and everything, you might feel really stressed out one day, but if you throw a fit or if you express your authentic emotion, it might actually lead to a result in which you actually are unhappy because you might be fired. That's just one example. I'm not trying to insinuate that introverted feelers don't know how to control themselves and are gonna like do things like that, but it's just a way of looking at it that on the one hand, you have introverted feeling that is super focused on being authentic about its emotions, whereas extroverted feeling is really focused on expressing those emotions accurately in the external world and expressing it in a way that you're actually going to get the result that will give you the emotion that you seek. So if you seek happiness and you seek harmony, which a lot of people do, it's not just an FE thing to seek harmony. Everyone, you know, like could use some conflicts to eliminate some conflicts. Everyone, you know, wants life to be a little bit easier, but it is the FE and an ENFJ that is alert to the ways that you can maybe take an action or say something or whatever, like use your emotions in a way to get the emotional result you're looking for. And as Js, especially as EJs, we're focused on that end result. We are not like the go with the flow Ps like ENFPs or ESFPs. So that is a little bit of background about ENFJs. So why do they give unsolicited advice? It is because it pains them to hear people, especially their loved ones, especially if you're super close. It pains us to listen to you continuously trip on yourself time and time and time again. So we want to offer another perspective. And it might not even be our perspective. It might be another perspective that might help you stop falling on your face. Now, this can come off kind of annoying because ENFJs, when they do this, we can come off kind of holier than thou or kind of like a teacher or like a coach or sort of like we know it best. And that can turn some types off. That can really rub them the wrong way. And some types can think that when an ENFJ is telling you, hey, this is what you can do to try and establish some connection here or collaborate here, or, you know, you can do this to try and get this result you're looking for. We do it to help, but the selfish reason why we do it is because, as I said, it pains us to listen to. We are the type to not want to be friends with people who are not going to grow with us at the pace that we are growing. And that's the real truth. That is the introverted thinking truth that a lot of ENFJs might not say. And so whenever an ENFJ comes off pretentious or you know, holier than thou when they're giving you advice, part of it might be that we might feel like that we're wasting our time in our friendship with you, or wasting our time being around you, if you're going to come to us with the same problem time and time and time again. Because the way that ENFJs live our lives is when we have a problem, we want to make sure it never happens again. And part of that's because we're such emotional creatures. And as J's, like, we want to learn from our experience, and with our introverted intuition, we want to project that onto the future and think, how can I prepare for that better next time? How can I make sure that this never happens? For me, like, I have had many relationship problems in my past in which I was stuck in this pattern where I was like giving too much and not meeting my own needs, and in doing so it made me cranky and naggy and honestly not very pleasant to be around. And whenever I wasn't able to solve my problem, it made me very down on myself because I judged myself in the same ways that I would kind of judge others who were the sorts of people to keep getting into problems, emotional problems, that they weren't able to solve. Because I feel like whenever I've been in that place where I have been a broken record, I'm miserable to be around. I don't want to be even around my own thoughts. Like, I do everything I can to escape my own thoughts. And we are emotionally influenced. We are sensitive people, and we kind of don't want to be around like Debbie Downers. That's just the facts. So if you're an ISTP or an INTP, you have dominant introverted thinking. And so you might be looking at this and thinking, well, that's because you guys don't accept the truth. You're always trying to give the silver lining and look at it through rose-colored glasses. Maybe you should just accept the truth. And to that I say, sure, that is valid, that ENFJs should recognize the introverted thinking aspects and ask yourself, what do you think about this situation? And we do stray a little bit too easily from our opinions if it doesn't get that emotional result that we're looking for. However, if you are introverted thinking first, then that means that your inferior function is extroverted feeling, which means that you actually have a hard time knowing what needs to be done in order to collaborate and create bonds to get the emotional result that you need. And if you are introverted thinking first, you probably are the type to dig a hole into your own subjective logical perspective to where it's difficult to get out. And all that ENFJs try to do is help you get out of it. So, because ENFJs don't ever want to be down that hole of TI where we just think that we're right and everyone else is wrong, because whenever that is the case, we know that it's difficult to be flexible in our perspective and to be flexible with other people. And so we want to be able to see the grain of truth in all people's perspectives, because everybody has a reason for what they do. Whether or not that reason is correct, it's based on something real. It's based on a real experience that they had that maybe they misinterpreted, or maybe there's a missing piece. And so that's why ENFJs always want to bring forward another perspective or some advice that maybe someone didn't consider, because we want to refine the way that we're thinking about things. We don't want to cling on to what we're thinking the way that introverted thinking people higher up do. So if you are a TP, for example, and you are frustrated by an ENFJ giving you unsolicited advice, there are two things that you can do. You can either tell us that you don't want to hear our advice. We will take well to that. A lot of people assume that because ENFJs are sensitive and are emotional, that you cannot tell us what you want from us, but that couldn't be further from the truth. We want to help you. We want to be of service. We don't want to say something that's hurting you. And the thing that you can do the thing that hurts us the most is not telling us. The only reason why we would bring up the advice is if we thought it would be helpful. I've had friends who've had to tell me, like, hey, like, I'm just venting right now, I don't need advice. Or like, I kind of learn like how each of my friends are, and I treat all of them differently. So don't think that you're gonna offend an ENFJ by telling them that. That's like number one. Like, we're very easy to negotiate with. I think people forget that because we can get offended or blow up in certain ways. We can be emotionally reactive, but we are a lot easier to negotiate with than you might think. So honestly, telling us, that's one thing. Another thing is you could just be open-minded to it and realize that the ENFJ is not expecting you to do it necessarily. We're just offering another perspective. You could allow yourself to be open-minded and think and kind of relieve some of the pressure and realize that the ENFJ is not trying to live your life for you or tell you that this is the thing you should do. Instead, we're trying to help you expand your mind so that you feel like you have more agency over what it is that you're doing so that you can reach those emotional results that you're looking for. We don't want to see a friend that is seeking happiness and love do things to self-sabotage. I hate watching my friends self-sabotage. In fact, I feel like most humans are self-sabotaging to some extent out of fear. And that's one of those things that's so easy for ENFJs to notice. Because we can tell if someone is motivated by fear or love or hope. And if all of your actions are motivated based on fear because you think that what it is that you want is too good to be true, an ENFJ is going to spot that instantly. And we're going to want to help you get out of that emotion. But, you know, if you are an ENFJ watching this, my advice to you, though, is that not everybody is ready to move from a different emotional perspective. People have to be willing in order to want to grow. And sometimes you think that you're helping, but really you're just triggering someone and making them feel shame. So this is a big thing that I've had to realize, is that I never mean to shame anyone. Absolutely not. And I don't realize sometimes that my suggestions could come off like I'm judging the person, or like I don't realize that the emotional response might be shame, because for me as an ENFJ, and if you are an ENFJ watching, you might relate. For me, I love it when people give me unsolicited advice. I'm always open to advice. I'm always open to constructive criticism. The only type of criticism I'm not open to is if it is somebody who is does not have my best interest at heart, and they enjoy watching me suffer, and they are just correcting me or criticizing me to get a one-up on me. I can tell if that's the motive, and if that's the motive, if you're just trolling, then yeah, I'm not going to appreciate that. A lot of arguments that happen between ENFJs and other types, especially thinkers, is that thinkers will say, oh, I'm just trying to give constructive criticism, and ENFJs, they don't like truth, they don't like criticism. That can be the case, but I would say only for a very, very unbalanced or immature ENFJ would it be the sort of person that cannot accept truth whatsoever. More often than not, the ENFJ is focusing on the emotional aspect of the situation, and the thinker might be focused on the logical aspect of the situation. Explaining our thoughts takes a lot of emotional energy for ENFJs, so we aren't going to want to use that energy on you if we don't value you. So it doesn't mean that there is no thoughts there, it just means that inferior TI is a bitch to try and dig into and explain, and if we don't think that you're worth our time, we're going to use our time elsewhere. I will say though that because inferior introverted thinking because that is our inferior, we actually crave truth. We always want to know what is wrong with us. We always want people to tell us. We never want to be that person that is in denial and like always making the same mistakes over and over again. And I have been that person where I have caused my own pain and self-sabotaged and caused others pain. And I don't want to be that person again. And I feel like every ENFJ is different, but one of the things I love the most about myself is that I feel like I catch that when it's happening. That's where like introverted intuition can notice the pattern when it's happening. And if I don't know how to solve that pattern, I ask my friends for help, or I Google how other people have gotten out of that. Because I trust, above all else, I trust that I'm not alone, and I trust that other people have had this problem before. I trust that psychology exists. I trust that self-help books exist, and that other researchers about things exist. I trust that no problem that I've had has not happened to somebody else. I really just see that interconnection. So ENFJs can solve their own problems quickly because we do rely on the experiences of others. So hopefully this helped you understand a little bit how and why ENFJs give unsolicited advice. If you are curious about any other type, if you are trying to figure them out, you don't know how to treat them well, or you keep getting into arguments with them or whatever, please comment below and let me know if you have a suggestion. Also, I offer one-on-one coaching and consulting, which you can find below. Also, on August 22nd, I'm hosting a discussion group. That is also linked below. I have a membership group right now where it's $12 a month, and each month has a discussion that you can attend. So that is linked below as well. And I also have typing services linked below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.